Over the past couple of years, Chicago real estate has had a wild ride. There have been, headlines saying one thing, people's emotions getting involved and saying entirely another, but the data paints a very clear picture. So today, I'm going to give you a snapshot and just an overview of what's happened the past year in Chicago, as well as what I think is going to happen going forward, and kind of give you my overview snapshot of what I think is going to happen in 2026. So let's get into it. I'm not very tech savvy, so I'm doing like my own little Canva thing. But let's get right into it. So I'm going to be using I'm going to be using Lakeview and Lincoln Park as a proxy for the entire city of Chicago, not just because they're unique or anything like that, but because I'm based here. We do a lot of business here. A lot of my clients are interested in this area, but like I said, it lends itself to the rest of Chicago entirely, and the story is going to be very similar, with a few minor caveats. So let's get into it. First, I want to talk about Lakeview. So in 2024, let me see, let me make this a little smaller for you there. But in 2024, we had a breakdown here on the left side. Can you see? I wonder if I don't think I have the oh oh what just happened? Wait wait guys, we have a big news. Okay. Well, now how do I delete it? I don't know. Okay. So let me shrink this for you guys. So between 2024 and 2025 in Lakeview, we saw a pretty similar trend across the entire board. There were more sales in every single category, from one bedrooms all the way up to multi units, with four bedrooms having a huge breakout year. Almost a quarter more sales, going from 86 to 106 over the past year. And a lot of that has to do with, and this is just anecdotally, there's no data to support this, but anecdotally, a lot of our clients have been saying, hey, we are growing our family. We don't want to move to the suburbs. We want to stay in this area. We love this area. Let's go find something. And as a result, you have seen people with larger format homes, 3 bedroom to 4 bedroom condos, plus single family homes. You've seen their average sale price increase quite a bit, about 17% across the board, 15, 17, 18. These have had the strongest growth, but even like the 1 bedroom condos, guys, even 1 bedroom condos are growing in Lakeview. And in Lakeview, if you know anything about 1 bedroom condos in Lakeview, all of these high rise buildings have special assessments coming. Like, there's a lot of talk about them, sky high HOAs. I live in one of these buildings, so I know firsthand what it's like. But even there, we are seeing growth, with an average sale price of $246,000, even in 1 bedrooms. Days on market is really low across the board, even in these categories like 4 bedrooms and 1 bedrooms, where you're seeing an additional 2 weeks of days on market. These are low days. 31 days is a fucking month. Oops, can I swear in here? I don't know. My bad. 31 days is a month. 38 days is barely longer than a month. If we go back in time to just a few years ago, 3 months was like normal. That was a healthy market. 3 to 6 months was considered a healthy market. And even in the worst case scenario, 38 days, that's so fast. That is a buyer's market. And across the board here, rent prices in Lakeview have increased. This has been a pretty consistent increase for several years. About 6 to 8% a year has been very normal in Chicago. In certain markets, even more. But Lakeview, very hot. Similar in Lincoln Park too. Let's move on to Lincoln Park. How do I get rid of this drawing tool? Lincoln Park, same story for the most part. Let me get this handy dandy tool. Should I get a new color, guys? Let's pick. I want to pick red. Yeah, let's do red. No, actually green, because of all the money everyone's making in Lincoln Park. So similar trends similar trends in Lincoln Park. Lincoln Park and Lakeview, I want to be very clear, are the hottest markets in Chicago. They were for the past 2 years. Lincoln Park was probably the darling of the past 2 years. Lakeview obviously had a big breakout year with their average sales price, but Lincoln Park was the market where it almost felt like money didn't matter. If you wanted to live in Lincoln Park, you were moving heaven and earth to make it happen. So number of sales increased in most of the categories. I guess it was pretty, whatever. Single family homes especially had a huge breakout year for number of home sales. And the same thing I said about Lakeview. We have a lot of people that want to grow their families, and they don't want to leave the areas that they're comfortable with. They don't want to go out to the suburbs. We're seeing a huge city first push. My wife and I feel the same way. We want to stay in the city, and that's led to what you see here: 4-bedroom condos and single family homes having huge price growth. Same thing with 3 bedrooms. 2 bedrooms are probably the most desirable right now. If you have a 2 bedroom in Lincoln Park, it's going fast. Just complete side note, there's a 2 bedroom garden unit in Lincoln Park right now that just hit the market for like 525. Over the weekend, it got like 18 offers. Most were as is, cash offers. I can't even imagine when it's going to close at. It's January 14th. It's the second week of January, and it's a garden condo in Lincoln Park. But that's the kind of energy that people are going for with Lincoln Park. Days on market, it has decreased across the board. You know, with 3 bedrooms, it's down from 26 to 16 days. That's very fast. All of these are very fast. Even 37 days for single family homes is very fast because we are talking about $2.5 million properties. 37 days for $2.5 million properties. Things are moving. Rent prices have been increasing here too, for sure. But like I said, 2 bedrooms are the most attractive with their rent prices increasing 8.46%. That's the story in Lincoln Park. That's the story in Lakeview. And that's kind of the story across the city. Granted, these are two of the hottest markets in Chicago, but whether you're in Bucktown or Wicker Park or West Loop, Fulton Market, I mean, even the Loop is moving kind of fast. So this is kind of indicative of how Chicago is operating at a high level over the past year. So let's change gears for a second and talk about what's going to happen moving forward. Um, Affordability has been the big thing for a long time. And let's move over to my next chart about rates. But one thing that I really want to talk about is people have felt locked. And aside from these massive price growth, um, much of the housing in Chicago has been pretty stable. Price appreciation has been high here in Chicago relative to other markets, but it's still been in like the 3 to 6%, which is many people would feel that's very manageable. That's high, but it's manageable, especially when you're already dealing with high prices. But the big thing that I want to talk about here is this. This is right here, end of October 2023, rates hit 8%. And that was when you heard all the buzz about golden handcuffs and trading from a 2% to an 8%. And that kind of talk never really went away. But over the past 2.5 years, it has really slowly grinded down all the way to 6%. And many people think it's going to go below 6%. So affordability has really become more manageable for a lot of people. And if you're somebody who is in like a 5% ish range, maybe you got 4.5, maybe you got 5.5, whatever, trading to an 8% almost feels disgusting. Like you want to throw up in your mouth. But trading to 6%, I could get on board with that, especially because the home prices are maybe 10 to 15% more than when I bought, you know, 3 years ago or whatever. So if you're trading from a 4.5 to a 6, you can do that. People can do that, and people are doing that. They're coming out in droves to do that. And savvy buyers have been watching this all along. Back here, I remember when this happened. I think this was maybe end of 2024, I want to say, or maybe spring of 2025. This was a frenzy. This little drop right here was a frenzy. And right here, you see a big fall in rates. This has created a frenzy too. This is why you had 20 offers or whatever on a garden condo in Lincoln Park, because rates are falling fast. When the Trump administration announced their mortgage buying plan for $200 billion, very similar to quantitative easing. That's what caused mortgage rates to decline pre-COVID. Not COVID, they fell through the floor, but the U.S. government buying mortgage-backed securities to grind those rates down seems like it's happening again. Before it was the Fed, and now it's, I think it's Fannie and Freddie that are buying them. I'm not too familiar with it. I think this is going to have huge implications, though. Things are going to become way more affordable, but that is going to cause prices to freaking skyrocket. I'm going to jump forward really quick in my little presentation that I made for you, because this is what's been going on with inventory. These are actual inventory numbers. In January of 21, you had 17. I don't know if you can see the little pop up, but 1763 condos were actively listed in Chicago. Fast forward to today, in January of 2026, we have 520 active listings of condos in the city of Chicago. That is a huge drop down. And single family houses, they paint the same picture, but like there's just not that much for sale. So if you remember your econ classes from high school, when supply goes down and demand goes up, prices rise. And we've been seeing that. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. That being said, though, I do want to point out that like even though I showed you these wild Lincoln Park numbers and Lakeview numbers, by and large in the city of Chicago, there are still pockets that are really affordable. And these types of things, these types of price shocks to the market, I think cause migration. It forces people to explore new markets that they might not be their first choice, but like they're forced into it. That's what happens. That's why you see so many of the like far western suburbs getting even more far, and all the new development is even further west because people will move for affordability. So by and large, in the city of Chicago, let me get my tools out again. Average price per square foot of single family homes has been trading in this same bound. Bottoms out around 170 in the winter, tops out around 220 in the summer. Here we are in the winter again. Prices are rising, mind you. So here in this January of 2026, prices are around 190-ish, whatever. So prices are rising, but they're still kind of trading in this band. And that's where people are getting a little optimistic. And if you break it down by segments too, imagine these segments as each is a quarter of the market based on price. So when you're looking at the most expensive homes, the top 25% most expensive homes, you'll see that like over the past couple of years, their average price per square foot's actually been going down. So at the very high end, they're becoming more affordable. And at the low end of houses, still trading, even actually in all three of these quartiles, they are trading in the same kind of band. For a lot of people, that's very optimistic. That's what people want to see to indicate a healthy market. So what does this mean for you? What this means for you is that if you are a homeowner, you're probably sitting on a very large equity position, puts you in a great spot. But a lot of people want to move and they just don't know how to. Let this be optimistic for you. Rates are getting more affordable. You have the ability now to move and go somewhere else and have that confidence that you have enough money to buy a place and not get smacked in the face with a super high mortgage. So if you are thinking about making a move, I would love the opportunity to help you. If you're watching this from the email that I sent you, just respond to the email. If you're watching this on YouTube, I have a link down in the description. My name is Tony Angelos. I'm a Chicagoland real estate agent. My team and I did over 150 transactions last year, and I'd love to help you whether you're looking to upsize, downsize, sideways move, or even rent. Whatever you're looking to do, my team and I would love to be a resource for you and help. I will see you next time. Thank you for watching. Take care.